Welcome to Choodle Sketches by Sir Chuby, where faith is learned, understood, and deepened in simple ways. Let's get started. Before theology had a name, there was wonder. Before Christ walked the earth, thinkers questioned the heavens. This is the story of sacred theology, a journey from myth and philosophy to divine revelation, from reason to faith, from Athens to Jerusalem to Rome. This is Sir Chuby. Join me in learning the history of sacred theology. Now here's a twist for you. To theologize on the ancient world was to mythologize. That's right. Before creeds and councils, theology was poetry. To be a theologian was not to debate doctrines, it was to tell stories. Stories about gods, about chaos and order, about thunder, love, betrayal, creation. The first theologians, not bishops, but bards, poets like Homer. When he sang of Zeus, Athena, and the birth of the gods, he wasn't writing fantasy. He was writing theology. Theogonies, they called them, stories of divine origins. This was how ancient minds grasped ultimate mysteries, not through argument, but myth. These stories were the earliest blueprints of sacred thought. In ancient Greece, theology wasn't sacred yet. It began as philosophy. Plato asked about the soul and eternal truth. Aristotle proposed the unmoved mover, a rational source of all. They weren't theologians, but their questions on cause, being, and the divine laid the groundwork for sacred thought to come. In ancient Israel, prophets didn't speculate. They listened to Yahweh, the God who speaks, acts, and makes covenants. Revelation was history, not myth. In Greece, the divine came through myth. Theology was storytelling. Poets were theologians. In Alexandria, these two worlds met. Jewish revelation collided with Greek reason and cosmology. Philo of Alexandria, a first-century Jewish philosopher, sought to unite Hebrew revelation with Greek cosmology. He blended Greek philosophy with Hebrew scripture. Using Plato and Stoic thought, he interpreted the Bible allegorically, seeing God as pure being and the Logos as divine reason. Though not Christian, Philo's work deeply influenced early Christian theology and language. Then came the Church Fathers: Justin Martyr, Origen, Gregory, Augustine, theological gladiators in a pagan empire. They took the tools of philosophy and baptized them. Against heresies, they forged doctrine. Against confusion, they brought clarity. One God, three persons. One Christ, two natures. This was theology not as speculation, but as defense, as devotion. Origen of Alexandria called theology the teaching about God and Christ. The Greek verb theologein once meant to worship the emperor as God, but in early Christianity, it was redefined, now meaning to confess Christ as God. For Origen, theology wasn't myth or state ritual, it was truth-seeking through scripture, reason, and faith. Theology shifted from political loyalty to divine truth. The fathers of the church, especially in the East, distinguished between theology, theologiae, and economy, oikonomia. Theology refers to the mystery of God's inmost life within the Blessed Trinity, activity ad intra. Economy refers to all the works by which God reveals himself and communicates his life, activity ad extra. In the 12th century, Peter Abelard was the first to use theology in a Christian academic sense. For him, theology meant a treatise, a systematic, intellectual discipline about God himself. This marked a shift from proclaiming the mystery of Christ to organizing divine knowledge with reason. Abelard helped move theology from the monastery to the university, from meditation to method. Saint Anselm sought to bridge monastic faith and rational inquiry. He held that reason and faith were not enemies, but partners. His guiding principle: I try to understand in order to believe, but I believe in order to understand. For Anselm, loving faith desires deeper knowledge. Reason, ratio, is grounded in faith, fides, yet explores freely. By the Middle Ages, theology had grown teeth. Welcome to the scholastic era, where theology became a discipline, systematic, rigorous, beautiful. St. Thomas Aquinas brought Aristotle back into the conversation, his Summa Theologiae, a cathedral in words. Theology now had structure, method, and might, and yet it never lost sight of the mystery. For St. Thomas Aquinas, theology has two forms: natural theology, built on reason alone, using human intellect to reflect on what can be known about God through nature and logic; sacred theology, built on faith, reflecting on truths revealed by God and deepened through reason. Aquinas united faith and reason, showing that while revelation is higher, reason still aids in understanding God. For St. Bonaventure, sacred theology was not just about knowing God, it was about loving Him. He saw theology as a salvific and practical science, aimed at leading souls to union with God. Unlike Aquinas, Bonaventure emphasized the will over the intellect. Theology, then, is not merely speculative. It is practical, transformative, and rooted in love. But in the 1500s, the dam broke. Martin Luther hammered his theses, and theology exploded into public life. Scripture over tradition, faith over works, conscience over hierarchy. The Catholic Church fought back at Trent, and so theology split, Catholic and Protestant, each with their own camps, confessions, and convictions. Painful, yes, but also fruitful. Debate sharpened the edge. The change of perspective recently caused by Vatican II has removed theology far from the controversialist apologetic context characterizing the 4 preceding centuries. Now theology can dialogue amicably with other cultures and with the sciences, showing that, with respect to the totality of knowledge, each is complementary with the others and has a part to play in improving human life. Today, sacred theology is not just European or clerical, it's global. It speaks with voices from Latin America, Asia, Africa, women, laity, converts, critics. Theology is no longer a monologue, it's a conversation with culture, with science, with suffering, with other religions. But it still asks the ancient questions: who is God? Why are we here? What must we do? Theology began in wonder. It grew in worship. It is not a relic. It is a living tradition. And it continues as both mystery and mission. The story of sacred theology is the story of the human soul reaching toward God, and God reaching back. This has been your guide, Sir Chuby. May your questions burn bright, and your faith burn brighter.